It's great to be here. I'm a little, I started to say light sensitive, but I don't know if I'm sensitive, but anyway, I can see you, but I'm going to adjust a little bit here. I'm going to turn in my Bible to Matthew 4 if you want to turn in yours or if you just want to listen. In a few moments, I'm going to read. By the way, I was only 6 years old when I went into ministry. I wish. That's a whole different story. But I started pastoring when I was 20. Nobody's ready to pastor when they're 20. But thank God for His grace. Anybody say amen to that? Yeah, so grateful. I pray for me because when I get on this topic, it's hard for me to not go in a number of different directions. So just pray God will help me to stay focused. I'm going to talk about being fishers of men. And just pray for me. It's bad when you get old. Two old guys walking down the street, and a frog jumped out and said, "If you'll pick me up, kiss me, I'll become a beautiful princess." And he picked up the frog and put it in his pocket. And the other one said, "Didn't you hear what the frog said?" He said, "Yeah, but at my age, I'd rather have a talking frog." And oh, me. Praise God. I like old people jokes. I don't know why, but I've gotten where I like them. A couple were standing in a line at the bank, and a robber walked in just as they were coming up to the teller, and his mask fell off. He turned to one of the men standing there and said, "Did you see my face?" And the guy said, "Yes," and he shot him. He turned to the old lady and said, "Did you see my face?" She said, "No, but my husband did." Anyway, we could go on with it. There was an old couple in court because she had shoplifted. And the judge says, "How many peaches were in that can you shoplifted?" And she said, 6. He said, 6 days in jail. The old man said, "Can I say something?" The judge said, "Yeah." He said, "She stole a can of peas, too." Anyway, yeah, laughter's always good, but the older you get, the more important it is. Matthew 4, and I'll just start with verse 18. Jesus says, "Just come out of the wilderness." From that time, Jesus began to preach, saying, "Repent." This is verse 17. "For the kingdom of heaven is at hand." And Jesus, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw two brothers, Simon called Peter, and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. Then he said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." I was ready to quit preaching when I'd been preaching 7 years, because what I was preaching in the book of Acts I wasn't seeing in the church and in my own life either. But in my hunger, the Lord led me to a friend that I had gone to seminary with, and he had been baptized in the Spirit and prayed with me, and I was baptized in the Spirit. It caused a lot of trouble. In 1964, I was a Southern Baptist pastor in Mobile, Alabama, and Baptists weren't real big on the baptism in the Spirit and the gifts. Is there any water anywhere around? I'm just a little bit dry. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. But if one of you run across a bottle, be sure it's water. That would be good. So anyway, the charismatic movement was just starting. And the kinds of activity that caused your church to come into existence was just starting. And you know, it's wonderful to look back and see what happened, but when it hadn't happened yet, you don't know what's going to happen. And that's how I felt, and I was 27 years old and had a new baby, and thought I would get fired because my friend got fired from a 900-member church, which at that time, thank you, was a big church. And so, well, I did a retreat. How many of you pray better when you're in trouble? Anybody here? I did. I was going to be voted on. Baptists are big on voting. Anyway, it's fun when you're not the one being voted on. And so I did a retreat. I read this verse, follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men. Now, I know it applies to women too. I know it's mankind. You could translate it that way. When they say men in those days, they meant mankind. But I took it to mean men. I felt like God was telling me to fish for men. He said three things I never had to write down. It was so clear. He said, I've called you to reach men. If you reach men, you'll reach women, because women want to be where there's godly men. He said, if you reach men, you'll reach young people, because they're more likely to follow the Lord if their fathers are following the Lord. And he said, if you reach men, you'll never have a financial problem. He knew how to touch my heart with that third thing, anyway. But reach men. Jesus fished for men, and he said, if you follow me, I'll make you a fisher of men. Now, he was talking to fishermen. Let me just say, I don't believe the so-called portrayals of Jesus are even close. I don't believe Jesus was effeminate. I don't believe he was delicate. You don't hang out on the lake with commercial fishermen and get in their boats with them and fish with them if that's how you are. I have to be careful because I'm deeply disturbed at the way men are portrayed and the results of it that people don't talk about very much. I'll turn my phone off. Sometimes it's gone off. The vast majority of men in prison didn't have a father, or the fathers they had weren't good fathers. We're paying a high price for a failure to understand the importance of manhood. And, if you got daughters and you deprecate men, who's she going to marry? Who would she want to marry? We need to get some clarity that being a man and fishing for men is not because we're prejudiced against women, or that men are more important. Well, The fact is, God began with men because he wanted someone to have responsibility. And when men are irresponsible, chaos is the result. And so I began to feel men were critical. This is 1964, and so began to figure out how to do that. And growing up, I loved sports and played football when a guy my size could play. I wasn't fast, and I certainly wasn't big. My coach said, "Simpson, you're little, but you're slow." And so I played guard. You wouldn't believe it. A guard is a fullback with his brains kicked out. And but I had evil spirits, and that helped me a lot in the game. But I was too small for college, and so I took up boxing. I love manhood, being a man, and I'm deeply concerned at what religion has made Jesus look like. And men's lack of wanting to be religious, and how to know Jesus apart from being religious. I think it's good to remember that Jesus hung out with guys. He was the kind of man who did that. So in trying to understand what to do, a lot of men can't sing high notes. A lot of men can't sing, period. That's all right. A lot of men don't, they have a problem. A lot of men have ADD. I do. About a quarter, I think, do. Attention deficit disorder. And so they don't like to sit and listen to a long sermon. By the way, if you get through before I do, feel free. I'll understand. How do you reach men? I don't think it starts out. I don't think fishing for men in church is the way to start. Now, if they come to church, fine. If a fish jumps in your boat, keep it. But that's not usually how you catch them. I say something that reminds me of a story. I'm sorry. I have a Cajun background. My mother was German Cajun in the swamps of South Louisiana. There's all kind of Cajuns, by the way. Italian, French, Spanish. They all share a culture. But Boudreaux and Thibodeau were out fishing, and they were catching them, and Thibodeau said to Boudreaux, he said, "Hey, Boudreaux," he said, "you mark the spot where we catch these fish, huh?" He said, "Yeah." They got in to turn in the rental boat. He said, "Hey, Boudreaux, how do you mark the spot where we catch these fish?" He said, "I cut a notch on the side of the boat." He said, "You fool, how you know we get the same boat next time?" Anyway, where are you going to fish? Well, you have to be careful because you could go someplace where the fish are, but it wouldn't look good, or people might misunderstand. You know, Jesus wasn't insecure. He went where they were. The Bible says the common people heard him gladly. It was the religious people that crucified him, them and the Romans. By the way, I'm not against church, but I'm against believing that forms and habits are the same thing as knowing Jesus. And I'm sorry, but I grew up in church, and I love the church. I was born in a Baptist hospital, went to 2 Baptist colleges, and married a Baptist girl, Baptist seminary, had Baptist pets. I owe Baptists a lot, and I'm not being critical. Help me, Lord. But we've got to learn how to fish. You're not going to catch fish in the bathtub. And we got to learn the bait fish like, not the bait we like. So we started ball teams. And we had 10 ball teams in our church. We had our own league and had another team in another league. And we began to do things that men like to do. Camping and cookouts, and we attracted guys, blue-collar guys. I like blue-collar guys. Now, I like professional guys too, thank God. But a lot of guys not going to college now. A lot more women in college than men. There's trends I hope you can understand. I'm sure you can. So we went after construction people. Of course, we were glad to have doctors, which we had several in the church. We were glad to have any professional guy. But we began to focus a lot on, we had machinists. One of the guys that met the Lord was, and by the way, after ball teams and different things that men enjoyed doing, we'd also invite them to prayer meetings. And we had some amazing prayer meetings where people met the Lord. But anyway, one of the guys was a machinist, and pretty rough, crude. He grew up in a little seafood bayou town on the coast, fishing village. Became a machinist. Met the Lord and became an evangelist. He's passed on now. His son pastors the church. Tell you the kind of guy he was. Harold was his name. Harold was a black and white kind of guy. And I was pastoring. And Harold calls me up and said, "Brother Charles, you believe the Bible?" I said, "Of course I do." He said, "You believe James 5:13? I said, "Of course I do. What does it say?" He said, "It says to call for the elders of the church, and they're to pray over him, anointing with oil. If anybody's sick, anoint him with oil, and prayer of faith will save the sick. Bring your oil and come over here and pray for me." I had never anointed anybody. I didn't know what kind of oil to buy. I'm a Baptist pastor in that area of the city. So I'm thinking, I know Harold, I'm going to have to do this, but I don't know what I'm doing. And I did believe the Bible. I just had never been a doer of that passage. And so I went to the store. I didn't know what kind of oil to get, and I was afraid somebody was going to ask me what I'm looking for and what I was going to do with it. And being a local Baptist pastor. And so I settled on olive oil, and I bought it, and nobody asked. And I went over to Harold's house, and Harold was a tall guy. He didn't live in a big house, and his back was bothering him. He couldn't sleep on the bed. And he was laying on the floor, wall-to-wall Harold. And so I went in. You ever do something you feel really awkward about? And so I didn't know how to anoint. So I put a little on my hand and put a little on his forehead and prayed a kind of if it be thy will sort of prayer. And nothing happened. I thanked Harold for the opportunity to have prayer with him and backed out of the room and went home like a sheep-killing dog. And next morning, Harold called and said, Brother Charles, bring you all and come on back and pray for me. I said, Lord, if you don't heal Harold, I'm going to spend every day praying for Harold every morning, because that's the kind of guy he wants. So I went over there. I read James 5 again. It says the prayer of faith. I'd missed that part. Anyway, I went over there and poured oil all over his head and slapped him on the head and shouted like Oral Roberts, and he jumped up. He said, I feel better. I said, I do too. You know, and that started something in his life. And he invited some other machinists to prayer meetings, and one of my guys was a blue-collar guy. His daughter had been healed, and he'd been filled with the Spirit, and so he was having a Bible study, and just, I don't want to say a redneck, but I'd say, anyway. So he's got his bunch together. Like attracts like. And so he said, he's got him. He said, let's turn to Galatians, such and such chapter. Let's go to 1 Thessalonians. And he goes on to 2 or 3 books. And the guy hollers, he said, hell, I ain't found Galatians yet. And that's the kind of group he had. That's a great group. They're at the door. Somebody got them to the door. And they're finding their way in. Now, it could be a professional group, it could be. But the most important thing about dealing with God is you need to know you don't know. It's humility. The humble will hear and be glad. The humble. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves. You can fish for pride, you can fish for arrogance, but if you catch it, you don't have anything. But there are those who know they don't know, especially in this time. And it's a great fishing season if we know where to fish. One guy had a gun collection, and he loved guns. Another guy had a knife collection. He loved knives. They're just manly guys. And Jesus hung out with those kind of guys. We're not only learning about them when we fellowship, they're learning about us. And it's more caught than taught. Somebody said, don't worry that they don't listen. Worry that they watch. You learn from your teacher, not just by listening, but by watching. And they are watching us. They're not listening so much, but they are watching. And what we have is contagious. It should be. They should see things that they want. And we built fellowships. One of the things I'm most grateful for is God blessing me with good friends for a long, long time. And many of them are with the Lord now. Some are not. There's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. They're not the kind of people that blow smoke at you. They're the people, if their yea is yea, their nay is nay. I like people who look me in the eye and tell me the truth, even the part I don't like. My mother's people were like that. They didn't have to talk to you. You could just look at their eyes and know pretty much what they were thinking. And good friends, there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. Jesus said, I call you no longer servants, but friends. He said, I've told you everything the Father's told me. That's what you do for friends. You tell them what God tells you. You tell them what you know. You can trust them. Trust is at a very low ebb in our country right now. And people are looking for what they can trust. Consistency. People that keep their word. I read a book earlier this year, The Revolt of the Public, by Martin Gurri, G-U-R-R-I. Gurri was a Cuban that left Cuba because of the revolution. And his thesis was that he began to study revolutions. In fact, he worked for the CIA for a while. And as he studied revolutions, he came to the conclusion that nihilism, cynicism, was the basis for all revolutions. That when people lose confidence and trust in the institutions of their culture, a revolution is at hand. He wasn't for revolution. He wasn't promoting revolution. He was just studying why they happen. And I believe that cynicism about our institutions is higher than it has been in my lifetime. I didn't grow up with the attitude that I've come to develop myself. And so people want to know, what can I trust? Women want to know, can I trust the guy? Men want to know, can I trust her? Children want to know, do my parents mean what they say? Is there content somewhere? Jesus built content, character, strength. Hebrews 11:34, after it talks about all these great heroes of faith, it says they became mighty in battle. Became, not were, became, as they struggled. Jesus said, I will make you fishers of men. I'll form you, I'll shape you if you'll humble yourself. And he did. Those guys were used to change the world. We're here because Peter the fisherman, somehow by the grace of God, became Peter the apostle. James and John, the sons of thunder, they wanted to call down fire, somehow were shaped into authors of Holy Writ and apostles who gave their lives. We can become strong, mighty in battle. We can, and we must. This is not a time for timidity and fear. and doubt as to who you are or where you're going or what you are. It's a time to be a man and put away childish things. Are we like Esther, born for such a time as this? I believe so. I don't believe we're here by accident. I believe we're here by calling. Well, one of the key things about manhood is responsibility. You can preach on a lot of things and draw a crowd, but preaching on responsibility and discipline probably will lose the crowd you have. And yet, men are to be both. There's no great athlete without discipline. There's no great soldier without discipline. There's no great person without discipline. Training, excellence in the little things, growing more and more through all things to be like Jesus. I trust God. I never wanted to be a preacher. And anybody who knew me never thought I would be. And I won't go into all my reasons. My father was a minister, and I believe a great man. A missionary for 13 years in the swamps, by faith entirely. And then pastored his last church 35 years. It's unusual for a pastor to last 35 years, especially in a Baptist church. No one had ever been there longer than 2 years, and after he resigned, the next guy lasted 1 year. And when he retired, he worked with us as a senior adult pastor for 20 years. Dad was special. I was more like my Cajun relatives, I felt. And I didn't mind. Well, I didn't put up with crap, if you'll pardon the expression. I didn't start it, but my earliest memories in the swamp, and the people, my mother's people were serious people. First game warden that ever came in never came out. They were like mountain people. They were clustered. I'm not saying they were right about everything. They were just serious. I looked at a pastor as being, well, having to put up with stuff. And a lot of them do. And 20,000 are quitting every year because it's a difficult task. Everybody wants the pastor to be like Jesus, while they're like whatever they feel led to be. 2 young boys were arguing about who gets the first pancake for breakfast. And mother said, boys, if Jesus was here, he'd say, give my brother the first pancake. One of them said to the other, you be Jesus. So everybody wants somebody else to be Jesus. That was me. But I identify with sinners and men. Thank God. For women, thank God. And this is not to demean women. It's to give women hope to find a guy that loves God and acts like he knows God. So anyway, my greatest joy, I think, is to see fruit, and you have fruit here. Your pastors and leaders have reached out to guys, and here we're having a breakfast and gathering around the Word. That's wonderful. But we're to be personally fruitful. I want to read Scripture, and I'll close. Now, as I continue to close, you took me seriously. I didn't mean it that way, but a religious awakening is when the pastor says, now in conclusion. I'll get there in a minute. I'm the vine. My Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. I used to raise azaleas and camellias as a project when I was in high school. And I found that pruning was really important. I wouldn't prune my rare varieties because they were rare varieties. I'd prune the common varieties, cut them back, and everywhere you cut them back, they multiply. I didn't prune my rare varieties and found they had blight. Looked terrible. Finally, I started pruning them too. It means a lot to me when he says, my Father is the vine dresser. I was in St. Louis recently, but a year ago I was there. I go every year, and this pastor's wife knew that I had worked with plants. Every spiritual law is manifest in a natural law. Our founders believe that, and I do too. And she said, I've got a plant that's not looking good. It's on the corner of the house. It's meant to be special, and it's just looking scraggly, and what do I do? So I went with her, and I said, give me some snips. And she gave them to me, and I started clipping off the wild branches that were just hanging out there, not having any flowers. And I said, you do it. And she got in the spirit of it. I thought she was going to cut the whole thing down. And in the spring, she sent me a picture. It was beautiful, covered with flowers. Round, lovely shape. The Father's the vine dresser, and I believe he's pruning. It's not that it's what I want to see, because we all get pruned in some ways. He said, abide in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I'm the vine, you're the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him will bear much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he's cast out as a branch, is withered, and they gather them, throw them into the fire, and they are burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you will ask what you desire, and it shall be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit. It's hard to try to get up a good sermon for every Sunday and preach it skillfully and sincerely and be genuine and satisfy the desire of people who love to hear the truth, but who do not bear fruit. Fruit, if you mean by that a moral life, yes. But I think he's talking about reproduction. He said, I will, if you follow me, I'll make you a fisher of men. I pray that he will for all of us. Thank you.